Understanding Indirect Jargon, Indirect Commentary and Communication Differences. Written, edited, created, and published by Nisa Pasha, Executive Political Health Guru, Peer Counselor, and Educator, mentalhealthrevival.org. A supportive guide for peer mental health consumers, disabled adults, and young adults in crisis. This article is written for people who live inside the mental health system, peer mental health consumers, disabled adults, young adults navigating emotional or psychiatric crisis, individuals who communicate differently, and people who have experienced being misunderstood, mislabeled, or underestimated because of how they speak, think, express emotion, or regulate their nervous system. If you have ever been told you are too loud, too intense, confusing, indirect, aggressive, odd, hard to follow, or not making sense, this article is for you. Many people who live with disabilities, sensory differences, trauma histories, neurodivergence, or psychiatric diagnoses develop unique communication styles that reflect how their nervous systems process the world. These communication styles are not flaws. They are adaptations, survival strategies, and often expressions of creativity, resilience, and intelligence. However, systems, professionals, and even family members sometimes interpret these differences through a lens of fear, pathology, or control, instead of curiosity and care. This can lead to misdiagnosis, unnecessary conflict, emotional harm, and loss of personal dignity. Indirect language, symbolic speech, strong vocal projection, and metaphor-heavy communication can sometimes appear in psychiatric conditions such as schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, especially during psychosis, but they also appear in deaf communities, people with developmental disabilities, trauma survivors, autistic individuals, people with ADHD, and those who grew up navigating unsafe or unpredictable environments. The same outward behavior can come from many different internal experiences. When difference is confused with illness, people get harmed. This guide explains what indirect language is, why it happens, how it connects to mental health and crisis experiences, how bias affects interpretation, and how you can better understand yourself, advocate for your needs, and protect your mental wellness. Indirect jargon and indirect commentary, what it feels like from the inside. For many consumers and disabled adults, indirect language is not a choice. It is how the brain organizes information when emotions, sensory input, memory, or stress are intense. Words sometimes feel too small to hold what the body is experiencing. Thoughts may move faster than speech. Safety concerns may require careful wording. Overload can cause language to become symbolic, layered, or simplified. Indirect jargon may show up as personal phrases, metaphors, imagery, or unique expressions that make perfect sense internally, but feel confusing to others. Indirect commentary may appear as hinting, circling around topics, or expressing ideas emotionally instead of literally. These patterns can increase during trauma triggers, sensory overload, sleep deprivation, medication changes, emotional or psychiatric crisis. What this can feel like internally: thoughts feel rich, layered, and emotionally charged. Your body feels activated, overwhelmed, or hyper-aware. You may struggle to translate feelings into direct words. Worry about being misunderstood or judged increases. Speaking indirectly may feel safer than direct communication. What often happens externally: others may misinterpret your meaning. Professionals may overanalyze or pathologize your words. People may assume you are unstable, aggressive, or confused. You may feel invisible, silenced, or dismissed. Increases emotional stress. Key point: none of this means you are broken. Your nervous system is doing its best to manage complexity. When indirect language connects to psychosis, without shame or fear. For some people, especially those living with schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder with psychotic features, or severe trauma reactions, indirect language can become more intense during periods of psychosis. Psychosis changes how the brain assigns meaning to experiences. Sounds, images, coincidences, or internal sensations can feel deeply significant, symbolic, or personal. The brain may connect ideas that normally stay separate, creating language that feels poetic, mystical, or coded. From the inside, these experiences often feel logical, meaningful, and emotionally powerful, not crazy. From the outside, they may sound confusing or concerning. This mismatch between internal reality and shared reality can create isolation and fear if not handled gently. How psychosis can influence language. Thoughts may link through emotion rather than logic. Words may feel charged with symbolic meaning. Speech may jump between ideas quickly. Indirect phrasing may feel safer than direct statements. Beliefs may gradually become fixed or rigid. Important reassurance. Experiencing psychosis does not erase your intelligence, worth, or identity. Many people recover stability with the right supports. Language shifts are signals, not failures. You deserve respect, even when symptoms are present. Understanding this helps reduce shame and supports early self-awareness. Delusions and paranoia. Why indirect speech can feel protective. When someone feels unsafe, watched, judged, or threatened, whether due to trauma, psychosis, or real-life experiences, indirect communication often becomes a protective shield. Instead of saying exactly what feels dangerous, the nervous system softens or disguises the message, sometimes subconsciously. Paranoia does not always mean someone is wrong. It means the brain is scanning for danger intensely. Sometimes the danger comes from past trauma or institutional harm, not imagination. The body remembers vulnerability. How this may show up? Hinting instead of stating concerns directly. Using metaphor or symbolic language. Testing safety before sharing more. Feeling emotionally guarded in conversation. Becoming sensitive to tone, facial expressions, or silence. These are survival strategies, not moral flaws. Deafness and sensory differences, why voice and language can be misread. For deaf and hard-of-hearing individuals, vocal volume regulation works differently because auditory feedback is limited or absent. People may speak louder or with stronger projection without intending aggression. Sign language grammar also differs from spoken English, which can influence sentence structure, phrasing, and indirectness when translating between languages. This is not a behavioral issue. It is neurological adaptation. Common impacts. Others may mistakenly perceive assertiveness as anger. Authority figures may escalate unnecessarily. Individuals may feel constantly corrected or policed. Emotional safety can decrease in public or clinical spaces. You are not responsible for others' misunderstandings. Developmental disabilities. Expression does not equal intelligence or intent. People with developmental disabilities such as Down syndrome may process language differently, but often possess strong emotional intelligence, empathy, creativity, and relational depth. Speech may be simpler, more repetitive, emotionally expressive, or indirect, not because of confusion, but because of brain wiring. Misinterpretation can lead to infantilization, loss of autonomy, unnecessary restriction. Key truth: communication difference does not mean lesser humanity. Strong voices, assertiveness, and bias when confidence gets pathologized. Some people naturally speak loudly, confidently, or emotionally. Trauma survivors may develop strong voices as self-protection. Cultural norms may encourage expressive communication. Systems sometimes mislabel these traits as aggression, especially toward marginalized populations. You deserve to be respected, regardless of vocal tone. How misinterpretation impacts mental stability and crisis. When people are repeatedly misunderstood, nervous systems remain activated. Chronic stress leads to anxiety, brain fog, emotional exhaustion, withdrawal, reduced trust, increased crisis vulnerability. Validation and understanding restore regulation. Peer connection and support are key tools to reduce these effects. Empowerment, self-advocacy, and peer support. Practical strategies for consumers and disabled adults. Ask people to clarify instead of assuming. Explain your communication style when safe. Request accommodations. Advocate for respectful interpretation. Seek peer support spaces. Trust your lived experience. Why peer support matters. Peers understand indirect language and symbolic communication. Peers model safe relational support. Peer spaces reduce shame and isolation. Shared experience validates identity, not just symptoms. Closing. End. P. You are not broken. Your nervous system learned how to survive. Your voice deserves strong dignity. Your story matters. Your communication is strong, valid, even when misunderstood. Hope lives where understanding grows. Every conversation, every peer connection, and every act of self-advocacy is a step toward reclaiming your voice, your autonomy, and your well-being. If you want, I can also integrate a full compare and contrast of 2 peer-lived experiences section directly into this article, specifically for peer consumers and disabled adults, showing pre-crisis versus post-crisis empowerment and coping strategies, fully aligned with this motivational, trauma-informed tone. If you have specific questions or concerns, feel free to share. Hope you found this insightful while grasping the key components. Please contact me if you would like to chat in a peer counseling session revolving around this post or another topic. Mental health revival seeking to inspire a unique perception of mental health awareness and harm reduction.